Welcome back to the Bullpen with Sean, Mark, and Zach, the internet show all about Texas baseball. Joining me as always, Mark Pena from Occupy Left Field, Zach Sim from OrangeBloods.com. How y'all doing tonight, guys?
Doing well, man. Happy Monday, Sean. How are you?
That's right, man. Happy Monday. We love Mondays, right?
We fake it, right?
Yeah, we're going to fake it. We're going to fake it till we make it on this Monday. Make sure to follow us on X for all the latest on Texas baseball. 3 unique accounts. You'll get something different out of every one of these 3 accounts. Subscribe, get notified for all the latest content on the YouTube channel at Horn Takes. Mark's got some left field stuff for sale still. I saw those hats this weekend. Those are some nice looking hats. If you hadn't had a chance to see those hats, haven't had a chance to buy one of those hats, get over to Last Stand Hats. Check out the the left field collection. They're pretty nice, actually. They're really nice. They'd be good. They'd be really good golf hats, I think. They're the little laser cut deals with the like the vented. I don't even know what you call it, but they're nice. Nice material, good designs. Go check that stuff out. All that money going back to the Texas One Fund, as usual. Check out ChinookSeedery.com if you're chewing seeds, and you should be. And Mark, you got to try the Hatch chili. We got that on video. Tell us. We didn't really get we didn't really get a review of it. Talk to us about those Hatch chili seeds from ChinookSeedery.com.
I'm a huge Chinook fan. They've sent me boxes in previous seasons, and I got to be honest, that one and the garlic parmesan are the only 2 that I had purposely not tried. Just because they didn't sound quite as good. But man, you got me onto those Hatch chili, and they are damn good. I like those quite a bit. I think I ate the whole bag on Friday before the game. So
yeah, they're pretty solid, man.
Really good. Yeah,
pretty good stuff, man. When you see Hatch chili, you think, Hatch chili is like a big flavor, and so to get that all wrapped up and put in a bag with seeds is a pretty big feat, and I think they did a pretty good job of it. I think they did about as good as you could do with that. So if you haven't tried the Hatch chili, go over there to ChinookSeedery.com, use the promo code Horn Takes, and I can never say. I always want to put an R in code. I don't know why. It is what it is. It's gonna be a perpetual thing. Use the promo code Horn Takes and get 10% off your order on those Hatch chili seeds. All right, guys. Rough weekend for the Texas Longhorns. Texas kind of stumbling down the stretch a little bit. We went on the road to Arkansas, got swept by a dangerous Arkansas team that after this last weekend doesn't seem so dangerous, I guess. You could say LSU also a dangerous team. And then probably the hottest team in the SEC comes to town in the Florida Gators. They had won 10 of their last 12, I believe, coming into the series against Texas. We dropped the series. We win the middle game on Saturday. What was it? 5-3, 5-2. Friday night was a pretty rough disaster, really quickly early on. And then Sunday was just a game where I felt like we had some opportunities and just could not get a hit when we really needed a hit. Zach, we'll start with you. Talk to us about the series overall. What are your thoughts as we attack this Monday?
Yeah, I think, not making excuses for the team. I just think dealing with the flu all week really affected them a lot more than I think they probably thought it would. There was guys that started getting sick on the Arkansas trip, and it just it went throughout the entire team. Ruger had it just a couple days before he had pitched. Luke Harrison even had it just a couple days before he pitched. And, but just getting started off, I think it just wasn't Ruger's day. It wasn't that he was throwing bad pitches. He just couldn't locate his fastball. They're sitting breaking ball, and you look up and it's 6-0, right? And so they had to take him out. He only threw, I think, 35 pitches overall to get 2 outs. And in some ways that might be a blessing, right? Like he gets an extended kind of break. He gets to kind of just restart, recycle. But they just got off on a bad foot and just felt like they couldn't get anything going. Like it went and affected the rest of the way that they operated the rest of that night. Pierce Coppola, not taking anything away from him, he was really, really good. He continues to come back from injury, and he was on a pitch count, and it was like, okay, once you get him out, now you have your chance. And they really never could get things going. It was one of those nights offensively. And then you look at Saturday, and it was a little bit of here we go again. Florida's got their ace, Liam Peterson, and I mean, people forget, like, he's supposed to be their Friday night guy, but the only reason he was on Saturday is because of the weather delays and everything getting messed up with South Carolina. And Texas probably got a little fortunate that they got a little natural intervention there from the Lightning, and they were able to pull out a win because they got some late offense. But it was just on Sunday, I think, is really the game. Like, I can live with Friday night, I can live with Saturday, the entire experience, right? I think Sunday is probably where, if you ask folks within the program, you ask the coaching staff, and they were to give you their, down to earth thoughts, I think they'd probably tell you, we just flat out got beat. We just did not play, and they didn't play to the standard. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you see when you get a 4-1 win. Or a loss. It's just, they couldn't get anything going, right? Like, the pitching wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't great to start off with. Flores had some issues commanding the zone. But after that, the pitching kept them in the game. And so it was just the hitters did not execute.
Yeah, Mark, you're out there in left field with the whole left field gang. Talk to us about the vibe all weekend. How did that evolve over the weekend? And obviously Friday night, right off the bat, I'm sure it was like, holy shit, we're down 6-0. This is bad. And then Saturday was as Zach mentioned, kind of more of the same until the weather delay. And then the bats kind of wake up. The wind died down a little bit, coming straight in. It'd been blowing. I mean, it blew in all weekend, basically, except the last half of that game on Saturday. And so I think that was fortunate. We were able to get a couple balls out of the park. And then Jonah Williams has a big, what was it? It was a bases loaded double. To clear the bases there. A big hit for Jonah Williams. Talk to us about the vibe out there and just what your thoughts were from watching it out there in left field.
I mean, obviously we had our moments out there in left field. It was a good weekend overall, but it was a frustrating series, right? A much different experience than Arkansas the week before, right? Arkansas, you really just felt like we weren't playing our best baseball and didn't really put ourselves in a chance to be successful. But I felt like we had the opportunity to win this series, right? And I feel like a lot of the runs that Florida was able to get were kind of self-inflicted on the Texas side, right? A lot of walks, some tough plays in the field. There was that tough play on Friday where Farmer's, lining up to come down with that fly ball and hits the fence. Ball pops out of his glove type of thing. So just one of those really weird series, man. Baseball's like that sometimes, as we know, though. And it was frustrating, right? We couldn't seem to get the big hit on Friday or Sunday when we needed it. And just felt like we left some opportunities out there to win that series. So again, that's baseball for you, and you're going to run into those scenarios over the course of a long season. But it was disappointing with that being the last home weekend series of the regular season. I'm sure the guys wanted to win yesterday to try and get a share of that SEC title, during a home game and, get a win on senior day, all of that fun stuff. But, you really got to just keep it in perspective, look at the overall season, right? I think if you would have told me going into the last week of the year in Norman that we're sitting number 3 in the country with a chance to win the SEC title, I'd be pretty damn happy, and I'd probably feel a lot better than I did last night driving home from Dishwalk. So at the end of the day, man, you really just got to reset and think about it through that lens, right? We are number 3 in the country with a chance to win the SEC. And I'll be honest with you, before the season started, I didn't think that was a possibility. So I'm gonna choose to stay positive. Obviously, as always, stick with the boys and support them this weekend in Norman, and hoping that they find a way to turn it around and get a big series win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be more and more of this football mentality. And Zach, you mentioned it when you were talking to Sloss this morning. I put a poll up at the end of last week. Has like the football mentality kind of taken over baseball fandom? And I think it has. It's not the same type of game. You can go out and get beat 10-0 in baseball, and that doesn't mean you're not a good team. It just means a whole lot of baseball stuff happened to you during that game. And so people are asking, is it time to press the panic button if you're a Texas fan? I still don't think it is. I mean, it's not great. There's a lot of things this team is not doing that they have done to this point. But I look back at it and go, they've done those things a lot longer this season than they haven't done those things. And you look at the series this weekend and some of the notes I had, one of the things I wrote down, and this may sound like complete, I don't know, like homerific Texas sounding, but I don't feel like Florida did anything all that special this weekend. I think Texas just was absolutely terrible at the plate. I thought outside of the first inning of Friday night's game, the pitching was pretty good. Yeah, we mentioned Flores. Yeah, he kind of had some rough stuff going on, but outside of that, the pitching was really good. I mean, this Florida offense only had 14 runs all weekend, and so it's not like they came in and just beat up the ball. We just simply could not hit the ball like whatsoever. And I think, one of the things we've kind of talked about all year, and one of the things we started the year with, from my perspective, was like, what do we think about this whole philosophy of taking pitches and trying to run the pitch count up? And what is that? How does that evolve as the season goes on? I think we're at one of those points maybe for this Texas offense where I think you got to start hunting fastballs. Like if coaches are always saying, we need the guys to find a pitch they can.
They live fastballs.
Well, but they're not swinging at fastballs. They're watching fastballs go right down the middle.
So that's a different approach, right? Like you're talking hunting early fastballs.
Absolutely. I'm talking about if opposing pitching staffs know that we're going to try to drive the pitch count up and we're going to watch early pitches in the count, they're probably going to throw fastballs because that's probably the easiest pitch to locate.
So then they're going to throw backwards at you, and they're going to throw you a breaking ball.
Okay, but that's the game we want them to be in. We want them to be in that game. I think we want teams. I think we want pitchers guessing at what we're going to do versus deep in the count. We're guessing at what a pitcher's going to do. Especially the last 2 weekends, we've seen this Arkansas staff and this Florida staff that not only have good fastballs, but they have secondary pitches they can throw for strikes. Multiple.
But you're not going to hit pitches. Secondary stuff that's good. So
exactly. So what I'm saying is, why are we watching fastballs go right down the middle at the beginning of counts? We're getting behind, and then they can throw whatever they want. And then you've got a guy that's going, man, this guy might throw me one of 3 pitches, and I have no idea which one it's going to be. For as long as this at bat goes, I don't know.
Because
I don't know what he's going to throw.
The approach you're talking about is not a good one. It's a good one for 1, 2, 3 on 3 pitches.
I mean, if you can hit a fastball, it's not.
They're not going to throw you a fastball right down the middle, though.
They have.
Not
they
necessarily.
did. Florida did it all weekend.
Aiden King didn't throw a single fastball down the middle. He dominated.
Well, I mean, maybe not right down the middle, but here's what I would argue about that too. There's pitches that are called strikes, and there's pitches you can hit. They're not always the same thing. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. But I'll say this.
And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying, like, as we move forward through this season, more teams are going to pitch Texas that way because now they're seeing, okay, if we can get ahead and get these guys behind in the count, they struggle hitting secondary pitches, hitting anything, really. We've seen it 2 weekends in a row.
I would argue that this team has won 40 games out of 50.
And they have. That's true.
How many games did last year's team win? It was largely the exact same squad.
Yeah. Again, man, I'm not saying what has. I'm not saying,
and it's one that wins. So
I'm not saying what the philosophy has been to this point hasn't been a winner, because it has. It's been a great record. It's been a great season. As Marc pointed out, it's been better than probably any of us thought, this team would do to this point. I'm just saying, as we look to go further in the season, I don't like that. I don't like, hey man, the pitch is a fastball. Let's swing at it, because that might be the best pitch you're going to get that entire at bat.
Maybe.
Let me ask you this, Zach, while we're talking about it, and then we'll get off of it, because we're never going to agree, I don't think, ever on this one. But
statistically, you're wrong. It doesn't
is there something to be said as a hitter for like taking some swings, even if you miss, and getting some timing?
Do I know?
Like any kind of timing? Taking a swing early, even if you miss it, is there something to be said for that later in that at bat from a timing perspective?
Yeah, you're not going to get a later at bat.
What's that?
You're not going to get a later at bat. If you're swinging early, you're not going to go deep in counts.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe. And going back to last week when Sloss said, "Hey, we talked about swinging the bat earlier,"
and they didn't do it, and they still didn't.
Right.
So again, it's one of those things, though. You don't change after 40, 50 games in a season. You don't suddenly change your approach. This team is not, even with Max Ballou, this is not a team that's going to hit and score 10, 12 runs a game. They're just not. Gasparino's not a guy that's going to be consistent enough. Flores is hitting 250-ish, 260. Like, these guys aren't making contact. And so this is a pitching and defense first team, much like the days of Augie Garrido. And what you're counting on is you're counting on guys like Flores or Galvan or a Borba, or some of those guys that you're seeing a lot of pitches, that you're getting the pitch count up. But by seeing pitches, you're also starting to get some trend analysis on these pitchers, right? You're understanding where the break is, where the release point is, what their arm action is. And so you have a much better chance of getting a pitch that you can hit and drive later on instead of popping one up early. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Bases loaded, Jonah Williams at the plate, swings at first pitch. What did he do? He popped it up. On Sunday,
sure.
Men on second and third base, first pitch, pops it up. Like, you're more likely to pop a pitch up because you're trying to do too much on that first swing. And whereas if you can get into the groove and the rhythm, you're going to take some pitches early. You're going to take some strikeouts. Your strikeouts are going to increase naturally just with this approach. But analytically speaking, statistically speaking, you have much more success over a 9 innings period than you would a shorter term in swinging early.
Maybe so. I'm just posing the question because I don't know. I personally feel like it's ridiculous to watch a fastball go right down the plate on the first pitch and then try to swing and then try to hit a changeup or hit a curveball or hit a slider or something like that. Or maybe he does come back to the fastball later and you're slowed down thinking it's going to be something slow and you watch a fastball for strike 3. That happened at least a couple times on Sunday. Guys just watch fastballs for strike 3. So I don't know.
We're not pleased with the batting execution on
fair enough
counts, so
fair enough. I'm sure they weren't. And again, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just posing the question of it's like in football games, like, you start out with a plan, right? And then things happen over the course of the game and you go, okay, they're doing something a little bit different than we thought they might do. So now we need to adjust to that a little bit. So all I'm saying is there maybe some room to adjust at the plate for this Texas offense a little bit. The way I look at it, if you get down 0-2, you're probably getting out. Like, there's not a lot of opportunity, not a lot of chance you're going to hit the ball on an 0-2 count. Why not do the same thing? Just do it earlier against better pitches is all I'm trying to say. I mean, we hit 188 on the weekend.
They're not always.
It couldn't have got much worse if the approach was just go up there and hack. Would it have been much worse than 188?
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
Really?
Yeah, a lot worse.
See, I don't know. I mean, we can't prove that either way. But I think it's an interesting.
Though. I mean, you can look at TrackMan and you can look at the statistics of how they hit the ball and or miss and what's going on, and you can see, like, when you hit the ball, TrackMan will tell you this is the percentage of times that this would have landed fair or foul or home run or otherwise. Like, it tells you a lot more data than most people realize.
Sure.
I will also give you this data point. Of all the teams Texas has faced this entire season, including LSU, Auburn, and others, the last 3 teams they faced are statistically the best pitching staffs analytically, from an analytics perspective, that Texas has faced all year long, which I think says something, right? They've struggled in the last 3 weekends. It just happens to coincide with the 3 best pitching teams that they faced. So,
Zach, let me ask you a question, because I don't know the answer to this. I don't keep up with other teams as much as you do. Do Florida and Arkansas, they've been striking other teams out at the same rate that we've been striking out the last 2 weeks? Because I just think the sheer number of strikeouts has gone way up on our side. But do Arkansas and Florida consistently ring up 15, 16 guys a game, or is that abnormal to see from those staffs?
yeah, so Florida 234 and coming into the weekend. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas and LSU strike out, and Vanderbilt are the 3 top teams in the SEC play coming into the weekend, and Florida's right behind them on the season.
What are they averaging, though, Florida and
Florida's
Arkansas?
way up there. Like,
okay.
Yeah, so Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas, Florida, and Vanderbilt strike out. I mean, in call it 40 games, 44 games. I mean, they struck out over 500 people. So, yeah, that's not too shabby. They strike out a lot of guys.
Gotcha. I think that's the one concerning trend that I've had over the last 6 conference games. Is it feels like we're kind of sticking around that 13 to 16 mark in most of the games, which seems like a really high number, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they're talented pitchers. You can tell that Florida and Arkansas have good arms, but hoping that's not a trend that continues on the next couple of weeks. So hopefully,
if it makes you feel any better from a strikeout percentage in conference play, Texas is about middle of the pack, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then overall, Texas is slightly worse than middle of the pack. Call them number 10 in like the 50 games they played compared to the rest of the SEC. But yeah, I mean, it's what they are. Like, because of the approach, you're going to have more strikeouts. At the same time, the pitches per at bat, they're number 2 in the nation behind Notre Dame. So, yeah.
And what did you think about the umpiring yesterday? I heard the crowd getting a little chippy. I heard some people in left field yelling and screaming. I typically, from my vantage point, I'll keep my mouth shut more times than not, but seemed like there was some frustration on some of those called third strikes. Did you think that some of them were poor calls, or what's your opinion there?
Yeah. It was actually funny because we were talking with the Florida SID, who happened to be sitting right behind me. We were having a conversation, and they're pretty familiar with the umpire head. And I'm trying to remember the name they gave to his strike zone. I'm pretty sure it was like amoeba or something like that, because it just kind of moved all over. And it wasn't that like he had a bad strike zone. I mean, according to TrackMan, he was in the 80th something percentile, which is not terrible. I mean, it's not good for MLB by any means. But his in outs were varying depending upon if it's a left-handed or right-handed batter. And so he favors one side significantly more, whether you're right-handed or left-handed hitter. And so that certainly did not favor Texas, as they're not a heavy left-handed hitting team. So yeah,
Gotcha.
There was a couple of definitely borderline, and there was a couple that people were very upset about that were like 3 inches inside the zone. It's like, y'all have zero visibility apparently into the strike zone.
Well, there's only what, like 1,000 fans that can actually see head on, like where the pitch is left to right. And that's where the variation comes from. I sit way down the right field line, so I can see up and down really great, but I have no idea if it's in or out. All I can tell is if the catcher's moving a lot to try to make the catch, or if he's not. So yeah, and fans are going to be fans. We all know that. It is what it is, as far as that
Sullivan
goes.
was actually more pissed off on Saturday than Texas was at all. But Slausingle was frustrated yesterday. There was a call on Adrian. There was a call on Kimball. in his second at bat, and there was a call on.
It looked like Galvan a
that he
couple
missed that was
times
high.
was just kind of like, really? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell from where I was at. You got to trust the batter eye, right? Like if the batter thinks it's a ball, it's got to be a ball, right? Like that's the rule, right?
If it's our batter.
I love some Galvan, but Juan Soto Galvan doesn't always know when the ball's a ball.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think regardless of this conversation we're having and where it's rambled onto, like the offense was not very good this weekend. And if we want to continue to win baseball games, the offense has got to get better. And I don't even think that much better. I mean, we had opportunities to plate some runs where if we just get a hit here and there, or maybe string a couple of hits together. I mean, we hit doubles and then we strand guys. We get the bases loaded. We stranded the bases loaded twice this weekend. Wow. And that's a trend. That's been 6 times in the last week of baseball that we've stranded the bases loaded. And that's not, I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games if you keep leaving runners on base, I guess, is the moral of the story there.
I would argue that our offense hasn't been that bad comparatively. I would argue that our execution with the men on scoring positions and our bases loaded has been really poor. And so I'll frame it a different way. When I was talking to Sloss this morning, he said, look, would you rather have taken 2 of 3 against A&M and 2 of 3 against someone else, Auburn, but that meant that you won at least one game against Arkansas and won at least one game against Florida, or won the series against Florida? That means you would have probably lost only one series to this point and had won everything else. Like I think everyone's output of their thoughts on how the season's going and the trending would look very, very different, right? Like, oh, we lost to Arkansas in Fayetteville. Okay, that shit happens, right? Like, I hate to tell everyone, every single team except for one this past weekend that was favored lost. So,
I mean, to me, it's not so much the outcome. Like, I think in baseball, you play 3 games for a reason, right? Because and even in a 3-game series, the best team doesn't always win. That's just kind of how baseball is. I think it's like the trend of what we're seeing, where these last couple of weekends we haven't been able to get hits when we've needed hits. We've pitched. I mean, I thought this weekend the pitching was pretty good overall, but we have these stretches where it's not good, and we've hit a lot of batsmen in the last couple of weekends. A lot of free passes, whether it's a hit batsman or just a walk. And those types of things are things that I think if you're looking at this team or you're looking at any team, you just kind of go, man, these are not things that you would expect out of a team that is sitting in an opportunity to they're definitely going to host a regional. They're probably going to host a super regional if they can win a regional. And this is a team that today, if you look at them against the rest of this country, they have a really good shot to land in Omaha. I mean, just as good a shot as anybody else. We've talked about it multiple times on the show. There really is there's no dominant team this year. There's a lot of teams that have played dominant baseball in stretches. Texas certainly one of those teams. I mean, I would argue that if you look at this Texas team, they've looked more dominant than any team in a longer stretch this year. But they've also had these regressions where you're like, wow, like they're not infallible. Like this team can step on itself and make mistakes and not play good baseball. So I think that's the worry when you start talking about it and people start all that chatter. It's not about the whole season. It's about what we're doing today as it relates to what we've done before.
And I think, Sean, they're at a point right now where they're kind of a victim to their own success that they've had earlier in the season, right? Literally 2 weeks ago, coming out of the A&M series, we sat here and talked about how every time we need a big hit, somebody new is stepping up to produce that in that spot, right? And now we've seen 2 weeks where that's not happening. But you know what? That's pretty damn normal for college baseball in the SEC. And I think we just got spoiled that they did it, 10, 11 weeks in a row. And then they've gone 2 weeks in a row without being able to do it. But again, you got to take a step back and just look at the big picture of where they're at. And one question that I wanted to ask you guys, because I feel like it is pretty important at this point in the season, is, we've got a minimum of 4 games left before regional starts for Texas, right? With the SEC tournament being single elimination. Zach, what do you think Texas needs to do to secure a top 8 seed? Because at this point in time, that's literally all I care about, right? I obviously I want to win the SEC, and we're in a very good position to do that right now. But I'd be fine if we didn't win the SEC if we ended up with a national seed. I feel like that's the most important thing to Texas right now, is getting the opportunity to stay at home and making somebody else come and beat you in Austin. Do you feel like they're in a spot right now where even if they have a terrible weekend in Norman, that they're still up there in that top 8, or would they be in trouble by dropping that series?
No, I mean, perception-wise, recency bias-wise, yeah, they'd probably, if they got swept by Oklahoma, they'd probably be fringe, right? Down 7-8, somewhere in there. I saw just Nash comment, one win absolutely cements the fact that they would be a top 8. I mean, one win guarantees them at least a share of the SEC title.
SEC title, yeah.
And that's assuming that Tennessee doesn't get swept by Arkansas. Now, Tennessee's not been very good. I mean, Tennessee's fighting for their lives at this moment for hosting, and that's kind of wild to say considering they started the season 20-0. But yeah, one win pretty much guarantees you a top 4 seed, not just a top 8, but a top 4 seed. Yeah. 2 wins guarantees you probably top 2. If they sweep up Oklahoma, depending on what LSU does, and I'm assuming LSU is going to beat the crap out of South Carolina, who's absolute dog shit. You're probably looking at a number 1 LSU, number 2 Texas, depending upon what Florida State does in the ACC. And they've been so up and down. I could see them, kind of mangling it. So, I think they've pretty well locked up a top 8. I think they're, again, one game, and I think they have a top 4. So
I was just laughing over the weekend too. I could be wrong, but I think it's the last 3 times Texas has won the Big 12 regular season, I think they went 0-2 in their conference tournament. So it's just kind of one of those weird things where it's like, you never know how teams are gonna adjust or approach conference tournaments. So I'm really hoping to get what we need to out of the way this weekend so that we can feel good on
for reference,
last Monday.
Last year is not always, the past year is not always the best comparison just because other teams are doing things, right? But Kentucky was a 22-8 overall in conference, and they went number 2 seed. Tennessee was 22-8. They went number 1 overall. Then Arkansas was 20-10. They were number 5 overall. A&M was actually 19-11. They were number 3 overall. Georgia was 17-13, and they were 7 overall. So, I mean, 20 wins in conference pretty much guarantees and locks up a top 8. Now, again, the recency bias is what I have issues with. It's how you close. Some of these committee members are not watching throughout the entire season. But Texas has the resume. I mean, they've built the books. They're number 4 in the RPI. They're not going to drop out of the top 10. So,
yeah. Well, let's get it done then.
I mean, I think they've done enough to be an 8 seed at this point, 8 or higher at this point, regardless of what happens this weekend. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what we can do against this Oklahoma Sooners team. We're headed up to Norman Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. This is an Oklahoma team, 32-17 on the season, 13-14 in SEC play. They just got swept by Kentucky over the weekend, and I believe that was in Norman, correct?
No,
it was not
Lexington.
Norman. It was in Lexington. Okay. All right. Hard to go on the road in the SEC. We all know that.
The pink pimp hat must have been out, man.
The pimp hat was Lexington. But this interesting thing to me about this Oklahoma team, they lost a series to Georgia. They were swept by LSU. They lost a series to Bama. Their series wins this year in the SEC: South Carolina, Mississippi State, Mizzou, Ole Miss, who I think pretty good team, and then a Vandy team that's pretty good. So a lot of their series wins haven't come against the better teams in the SEC, and a lot of their losses have come against teams that Texas has handled well. Let's just put it that way. As we head into this series this weekend, Zach, what are your overall thoughts? What do you think Texas needs to do to get it done? I mean, to get that one win. You talked about the one win against this Oklahoma team. What is this Texas team going to have to do to get that?
Honestly, you're probably going to get your butt beat on Thursday night against Kyson Witherspoon. He's one of, if not the best pitcher in the nation. He's got some absolute electric stuff. I mean, he's legit. When he's off, he's throwing it too flat over the middle, but he throws hard. You're going to see 98, 99 regularly. You're going to see movement. You're going to see all kinds of nasty breaking, but his fastball is his go-to. So they need to be hunting fastballs, and they need to know that, it's
early in the count, right?
It's going to be tough because he's going to fill up the strike zone. He's not a guy that, he's a super athletic guy. But there are times when in the past when he's been super streaky and he just doesn't locate his stuff. And pitching, right? Like, it's baseball. It's one of those things where he has an off night, and maybe he does that. Short week for him. They had to travel to Kentucky. They had to travel back. So maybe that factors into it, you hope. But outside of that, I mean, honestly, if you look at any of the Oklahoma games this past weekend in Kentucky, they couldn't hit the ball to save their lives. They couldn't get the runs home when they had guys on the bases. I mean, it sounded a lot like the Texas-Florida series, honestly. Like, they just couldn't buy a hit at the right time. So that ballpark,
you look at the numbers for this.
So
you look at the numbers for this Oklahoma offense, and to me, it reminds me a lot of the Texas offense. I mean, not down to the T, but a similar to me, they seem like a similar type of team. Some really good pitching, and then maybe some bats that can be streaky, but you're not going to get you're not going to get consistent offense out of this Oklahoma team. You mentioned Kyson Witherspoon, 2.45 ERA, 190 opponent batting average, 104 Ks, which has got to be up there pretty high in the nation, certainly in the SEC, I would think. 104 is a lot. To only 19 walks. So to your point, maybe sometimes he does lose control a little bit, but he's getting the ball past people and they're swinging at pitches that may be out of the zone because it's just, as you said, really electric stuff. Their other two starters are more human to me. Cade Crossland, Malachi Witherspoon, 6.62 ERA, 5.66 ERA. The batting average way up closer to 300. Lot less Ks, or we're talking like 40, 30 K difference here, and a lot more walks as well. So I think, if we were to lose on Thursday night, it wouldn't be the end of the world because we're going to see some more normal pitching on Friday and Saturday. The offense to me, and I wrote this down, I said they're a lot like Texas, except they don't have near as much power. This is not an offense that puts the ball out of the park. And what do you factor? I mean, are they just not good at swinging the bat as far as that goes? Because Oklahoma's
it's not their
decent,
offense. Yeah,
it's pretty decent. It's a pretty decent place to get the ball out of, right? Like, it's not a tough place to get the ball.
It plays
out
small.
Of. Yeah.
No, I mean, the Oklahoma offense, it's all about Willis's offense, which is called chaos. They want to put motion on. You see the 127 attempted steals or whatever it is.
So
they're going to run on you constantly. They're going to put pressure on you as a pitching staff to be able to hold the runners. I mean, it's, in all honesty, the two keys of the game is be able to get to their bullpen, which has been so, and just hold the runners. I mean, Ruger's going to need to hold the runners. Harrison does a really good job of holding the runners. And then whoever ends up being the third starter, which I have a feeling we're going to see somewhat of a surprise name. Again, they're just going to have to hold the runners. Texas cannot let them just move over and motor over in scoring position without a fight. And so Galvan's going to need to be spot on with his throwdowns. He needs to make sure that he's ready for those guys and calling a solid game. But not a lot of power. They again rely on extra base hits and then just timely hitting and getting those guys over via steals. That's their offense. It's all about It's all about the Willis chaos.
Yeah, we've previewed a lot of teams this year where we said they've got 4, 5, 6 guys over 1,000 OPS. Oklahoma has 0 guys above 1,000 OPS. So not the same type of offense that we've seen. And again, it's baseball. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Let's talk about that pitching piece a little bit. You interviewed Sloss this morning, and he y'all talked about Ruger a little bit and kind of maybe what's next and maybe who that is. And then we had some conversations on the side today about what we think there. Mark, who would be your guy? If it's not Ruger that gets a start, who would be your guy coming in Friday night for this or Thursday night rather for this Texas pitching staff?
So you can back me up here and just confirm that I'm not stealing somebody's answer from the chat that we have going on here. But
I'll do it.
The guy that has really, really impressed me the last couple of weeks that I'd love to see what he can do in a starting role is Thomas Burns. That dude has just been an absolute animal. And I know that he's provided a lot of value out of the bullpen, but he also has some experience starting, correct? I believe he was a starting pitcher at Arizona State last year. And, it seems to be that's where we need some help right now, right? Jason Flores is a very talented pitcher. He's obviously struggled with control problems the last 2 home starts that he's had. And he was doing fantastic before in the bullpen, right? He was putting up great numbers earlier in the season. So I would love to see what that flip would maybe look like, right? With maybe putting Burns out there for game 3. I don't know. I wasn't able to listen to Zach's interview with Schloss today, but I'd love to see Ruger stick in that Friday night role, right? I know it's Thursday night this week, but I would bring Burns in as the number 3 starter and see what he can do, and to see how effective he could be. But I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. It just seems like we got to figure something out and make a move some place or the other, right? Because it's just not necessarily working the way I think anybody wants it to right now. What do you guys think? What would you do? And Zach, what did Coach say about Ruger in y'all's interview earlier today?
Oh, I have no doubt that Ruger is going to be the Thursday night guy against Oklahoma. I zero doubt in my mind that he's going to be the guy. It's going to be Ruger, it's going to be Harrison, and then again, I think Thomas Burns is probably the most logical choice. He only started a handful of games last season at Arizona State as a freshman because he did get injured. But he pitched back-to-back days against Florida, right? So he did pitch Saturday, Sunday, which lends itself to holding him out until later in the series, right? And so Saturday kind of lines up. Personally, I know a lot of people want to see Max Grubbs, and as much as I love Mustache Max, the thing about him is he is so much better suited to be a bullpen eater behind a Ruger or behind a Harrison. He's so valuable there. And the thing I go always back to with Max was you could almost count the number of innings last year when Max was on the mound before he would it was this weird thing where he'd go 3 innings and have a blip inning. And all of a sudden you're like, crap, he just gave up 3 runs. And then he'd come back out and he was just good. Like, it was like, for whatever reason, he would just have this weird blip at the inning. And it kind of happened last week as well, where he was cruising along and all of a sudden it was just like, oh, gave up a run or 2.
There goes a home run. Yeah.
That just seems to happen with him. And I don't think it's mental. I don't think it's because he loses concentration or anything like that. It's baseball, right? But for that reason, and the fact that you don't have the utility guy, which is Ruger in the bullpen anymore, Max is that utility guy. I think you keep him there. And again, I am not a pitching coach by any means, but if I'm going out there, I'm putting Ruger on Thursday. I'm pairing him up with a Max Grubbs if I need him. The goal would, on Thursday night, your goal would hopefully be to go Ruger to Duplantier to Volantis to close it out, right? Mm-hmm. Friday, you come out with Luke Harrison, which I think more pairs better with Grubbs because realistically, once Harrison leaves, you can bring Grubbs in and go the distance.
Yeah.
The problem with your starting Burns is now you've lost your starter guy, unless you're going to be able to bring Valances back out on Friday in game 2, which he's shown that he can do, right? And so I also don't think it's out of the question that maybe this is going to be Valances' start on Saturday. Give him a chance, see what he can do. I think he's still more valuable as a closer, but if they need to win, they need to win. At this point,
they need a win.
They need one win, right?
Exactly.
1 out of 3. That's all you need to get us. So
yeah, I almost feel like we might see what we saw at Arkansas, which didn't work out, where we saw Grubbs, Burns, and Valances in the same game. And if you throw that out there most times, you're probably going to be really successful. We just ran into a really good Arkansas offense. I think the thing about Grubbs, you kind of mentioned how he'll go along great for 3 innings and then kind of run into it a little bit. He throws a lot of strikes. And if you throw a lot of strikes, people are going to start to see that. And these are good hitters we're talking about. They're going to start putting bat on ball. And I think that's what we see with Grubbs a little far into his outings is he just throws a lot of strikes. And so once they've seen it a time or two, they're like, okay, I've seen this. I can put a good swing on this. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I do agree. He is super valuable in that sort of just wherever you need me role. Like almost like, hey man, I can do 3 today and I'll do 2 tomorrow, or I'll do 1 tomorrow and then 1 on Sunday, whatever it takes. That's what he can do. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see this weekend what those changes look like and how Sloss decides to use these pieces he's got, because I think there's been more step up. We've seen it over the last few weeks. We've seen guys like Cody Howard. We've seen guys like Hudson Hamilton. We've seen Ethan Walker, not as much recently, but as soon as a few weeks ago, come in and pitch some innings and do pretty well. Grayson Saunier is a guy that pitched really well this weekend.
Well, so that Grayson Saunier is my dark. That's who I'm putting money on to start the Saturday game, to be honest. It sounds crazy, but I don't know that it sounds crazy. Right now, I'd put Grayson. So.
He's proven he can come out and throw you some innings, and he's not perfect, but he keeps you in range, right? And I think that's what you're looking for.
He also has experience from Ole Miss, so he's been there. He's done that. So.
Texas State was his last start, right? He started in San Marcos. I think that was his last start this season. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, he's been good, and I think, right, guys, what's so important and what's obviously a little bit worrisome to me is we haven't been able to get the length out of our starters the last 2 weekends, right? I think 1 out of the 6 games we've had a guy get out of the 4th inning, and that was Harrison on Saturday, right? And I think you look at the Florida series, Ruger, he didn't even make it out of the 1st, did he?
He didn't make it.
He got pulled in the 1st, and then
he got 1 out, I believe. I think he pitched a 1/3 of an inning.
Yeah, and that obviously just puts the bullpen in a bad position, right? If you're having to get 7, 8 innings from your bullpen early in the weekend. So I just remember talking a couple weeks ago about how we were really impressed with like the consistent 5 innings that each guy was given on the weekend, right? And that's really that's really the magic number. If you can get 5 innings out of your starter, we have enough really talented arms to get the job done in the back end. So I think that's really the magic number for us moving forward.
Yeah, because the SEC average last year was 4.2 innings or 4.1 innings. Yeah. So, you get 5 and you set yourself up for a lot of success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so as Texas heads up to Norman, we've got two offenses that aren't lighting up scoreboards, and we got 2 pitching staffs that are pretty good pitching staff. So it'll be interesting to see. You know how in college football sometimes you go, man, these are 2 really good defenses, or these are 2 really good offenses, and the exact opposite happens in the game. We might see 12 to 10 games this weekend. Who knows? I'll take them if we win them. I don't care. I like to see runs scored. So let's talk predictions. Mark, tell us what you think is going to happen up in Norman this weekend.
Oh man, this is a tough one. I really do worry about game 1 with Witherspoon pitching. Like Zach was saying earlier, that guy is incredible. It's going to be very tough. But man, I like Texas's chances of bouncing back, right? The last couple of times that I can remember us playing in Norman, we were able to take advantage of the small park, hit a lot of home runs. So I'm hoping that'll be the case again in Norman this weekend. I'm going to call it, and I'm going to say Texas is going to win 2 out of 3. I think they'll find a way to get it done. I'm hoping that they can piece together a really strong weekend and get that confidence back going into Hoover and the regionals beyond that. So I'm going to say Texas takes the series 2 out of 3.
All right, Zach, what do you got?
Yeah, I think asking Texas to beat Witherspoon is probably a tall task. The thing about Crossland and Malachi is they're Skip Johnson guys, right? They're going to throw 96 to 99. They're going to throw a lot of fastballs at you, prototypically Skip's guys. Offense, I don't think OU has a great offense. I don't think they've had a great offense all year. So I do think that OU will likely win that Thursday night matchup. But I do think Texas will probably bounce back and get the next 2. I think they have the faith. The thing for me is that even if they lose that Thursday night matchup, it's going to be incumbent upon the leaders on this team to tell them, like, hey, you just faced the best pitcher in the nation or the number 2 pitcher in the nation. Like, just lock in, right? Like, you're going to see more fastballs. You're going to see more hard throwing stuff. Lock in, keep the approach, keep the same thing. And I do think they take the next 2 after that.
All right, fair enough. Listen, here's the deal. I think Texas goes up to Oklahoma and just absolutely ambushes Oklahoma. I think Texas is fixing to sweep the series against Oklahoma and just completely get it done and leave no doubt as to who the number 1 overall seed in the country needs to be, who the SEC champion needs to be, any of that stuff. Man, if Kentucky can sweep Oklahoma, Texas can sweep Oklahoma. Like, theoretically, right? So I think the guys are gonna get refocused. I think it's great that they're not playing a Tuesday game, right? They can all rest, they can get over what ails them, and they can get locked in, put some work in, and go up there and get ready for a really good Oklahoma pitching staff. But also, flip that around. I think our pitching staff needs to get ready for a team that's not great offensively. So like, let's limit those walks. Let's limit those hit by pitches. Let's lock in pitching wise, and let's just pump the zone. Let our defense make plays. There's one guy on this Oklahoma offense that's really scary to me. This Easton Carmichael kid, and there's a couple of other guys: Kyle Branch, Trey Gamble, Jackson Willits. They're all over 300. But the guy to me is Easton Carmichael. He's 13 home runs, 52 RBI, 8 doubles, 3 triples. I mean, he's bouncing it around pretty good when he's in the box. So avoid letting that guy beat you. And then again, just don't beat yourselves. I think that's what we've seen so much. As good as the pitching was this weekend, and I thought it was good against Florida, we beat ourselves a lot with hit batsmen and just walks for no reason and things like that. So I think we get that stuff reversed. And again, it's the same Texas team that did what this Texas team did for the last month before the last 2 weekends, even without a Max Ballou and even with Adrian Rodriguez being hurt and with Ethan Mendoza not being able to play out in the field. It's the same team that's done all those things. I think they get locked in. I think they go up to Norman, and I think they sweep the Sooners. Maybe I'm crazy, but it is what it is. Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, baby.
I like that prediction, and if that comes true, they should just completely sit out Hoover, just stay at home, don't even show up.
Yeah, can you do that? Sloss was talking about that this morning, Zach, with you. He was saying there's been times where I was just like, can I not? Or it was Augie. He was talking about how Augie was like, can we just not go to the Big 12 tournament?
Augie hated that Big 12 tournament. He absolutely loathed having to drive his ass up to Oklahoma to just, play meaningless games at that point. And there was only one season that they really needed to do something. But yeah, it was every time you'd ask him, hey, Augs, what's Big 12 tournament? You ready? He was always pissed off about it.
Yeah, you could tell with some of the performances a couple of years where
Oh,
it didn't look like they were very locked into that tournament. So
yeah, and even the one where they went deep, I mean, I thought it really hurt them. Honestly, like, I could care less about the SEC tournament. Like, honestly, even if you are a top 4 seed and you only got to win, what is it? What did Sloss say? You only got to win 2 games to win it, 3 games to win it, something like that.
3. If you're one of the top 4, you get a double bye. You need 3 wins to win it all.
Yeah, I could care less, man. Honestly, I think as y'all were talking about, that's a tough tournament. That's probably the toughest tournament conceived by man. And so, who cares? Let one of those teams that's fighting and scratching to get in go waste everything. Trying to do that out of the loser bracket side of the whole deal, and just, I mean, I'm not saying throw the games, but we shouldn't pump a lot of effort into trying to win out in Hoover.
hey, let's just hope we're on the other side of the bracket from Red Hot Missouri, right? We don't want to face.
Yeah, we don't want. Nobody wants to face Missouri right
They're
now.
not. So if the season were to end today, Missouri would be on the Texas side of the bracket.
Oh no, here we go. What
Yeah,
a weekend they had, huh?
That's just Sankey giving Texas a hard time in scheduling right there. That's all that is, man. That's a Texas bias right there. Whatever. Yeah, that was crazy, man. I cannot believe A&M got swept by Missouri. Like, what would you put the odds on? If someone told you, Zach, A&M's getting swept by Missouri this weekend, you would like laugh in their face, right? Like, I mean, there is no way.
So
Sean,
it's funny you say that. So there was a guy on Twitter that I follow. He does a lot of analytics and whatnot. And there was a bet placed in Vegas, or I guess the odds in Vegas, for East Tennessee State to win the College World Series was at 1 million to 1 or some astronomical number. Right behind that was the fact that not sweeping, but even beating
just
A&M
winning
in
a series
was behind that. And it was like, which would you put your money on? And it's like,
yeah,
Sean,
I would.
I woke up on Sunday. I was looking for a line to bet on Texas A&M because I was like, "There's no way they're going to lose 3 games in a row against Missouri." And I was looking for a line, knowing it was going to be expensive. They were a 5.5 run favorite. That's the only line that I could find online on a sports book, is that they'd win by 6 runs, and then they ended up losing like 10 to 1 or
10
something,
to 2
like
or 10 to 1 or something like that. Yeah, it was
wild.
bad.
Yeah.
Like I said, this past weekend was nuts, though. There was only one team that was favored that ended up winning, and that was that Auburn just beating the brakes off of South Carolina. I do a weekly prediction for all of the series in the SEC. This was the first weekend that I had a losing record in picking SEC series, and I went 1-7. I mean, thank God I was not betting any money because it was brutal.
Yep.
That's the way baseball go, right? So anyway, that's it for this edition of the Bullpen. We'll be back next Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Hopefully we'll be talking about Texas going up there and sweeping the Oklahoma Sooners. That's what we're going to be talking about. Follow us on X for all the latest in Texas baseball right there at the bottom of your screen. Subscribe and get notified on the YouTube channel at Horn Takes. As always, thanks again, Mark. Thanks again, Zach, for joining me tonight. Thanks, everybody out there, for watching, chatting, interacting with us. We sure do appreciate it. I'm Sean Redfern, and we will see you guys next week. You guys get hooked.